On today's episode of Locked On Oilers, a massive win in Dallas, depth scoring, and the good, the bad, and the ugly from Texas. All that and much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers.
You're Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Oilers podcast. I'm your host and former Oilers game day producer, Brett Holden. As mentioned on today's episode, we're going to start off with a little bit of a recap from the game last night in Dallas as the Edmonton Oilers get a massive 6-3 win in the Lone Star State. That will be in just a second, but also on today's episode, the success from last night's game, the depth scoring. We go more in depth in the depth scoring to see just how important everybody but Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl were, although Leon and Connor were obviously very important. And to wrap up today, as always, after every Oilers game, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the game in Dallas, Texas. All that and much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers. Thank you so much for making Locked On Oilers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you find your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And where we are going to start is with that massive 6-3 win in Dallas as the Edmonton Oilers get a massive 2 points. And the weird thing is that the Edmonton Oilers have now beat all three division leaders that they have played so far this year. That is interesting considering the last three games the Edmonton Oilers have played, they have lost to the St. Louis Blues, the Anaheim Ducks, and the Nashville Predators. And now the Edmonton Oilers finally cracked that really weird 3-game losing streak, get a win in front of the Dads and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' brother. And the Oilers are back on track. With that win, the Edmonton Oilers are now only a single point behind the Seattle Kraken for the third spot in the Pacific Division. The Oilers are slowly climbing back into that division race, and potentially we shall see if they can reach the Vegas Golden Knights at any point. But either way, it was a weird line as the Edmonton Oilers had a different configuration compared to the morning skate or the morning to what actually played in the game against the Dallas Stars, as it seemed like everything was going to be basically the same lines that they have ran against the Nashville Predators and the Anaheim Ducks. However, puck drop came, warm-ups came, and the game started, and the Edmonton Oilers had some different lines. So, what they lined up with, very different from what they actually had. Zach Hyman starting off with Connor McDavid and Jesse Puljujärvi. Yes, Puljujärvi back on the first line. And that means the Oilers broke up McDavid and Draisaitl. That means the second line was Warren Foegele, Leon Draisaitl, and Kailer Yamamoto. A third line of Mattias Janmark, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Klim Kostin, who actually started the game and the second period as well for the Edmonton Oilers. And the fourth line of Dylan Holloway, James Hamblin, and Derek Ryan. Now, a couple of things to break down from that lineup is that of course, as mentioned, both Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are not on the same line, so you're able to break them up. But I think the other important thing from that is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins being on the third line. That's giving you another very valuable option up the middle. And as Jay Woodcroft says, that is the spine of the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and yes, he's out right now, but Ryan McLeod, the spine of that team right up the middle. And now the Edmonton Oilers, after X amount of games having Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid on the same line, they can now distribute every player where they want to. That's important. That is very important. And once Ryan McLeod comes back, that it will be even bigger for the Edmonton Oilers. But again, as mentioned, a 6-3 win in Dallas, and that is where the Edmonton Oilers had their success. They were able to have scoring from basically all of their lines except for the fourth line, but still, that is the important thing. Mattias Janmark getting 2 goals and an assist for 3 points, a massive game for Mattias Janmark as he scored the first goal of the game for the Edmonton Oilers, also getting the closing goal, getting the empty netter as well. Klim Kostin, 2 assists in the game as well. A massive game for him. I mean, some games are a little quiet for Klim, but you watch him, especially in his own end, and he's very, very good. Then you go and see him have a game like this, and you go, I'm not surprised at all. And so, as mentioned, another 2 assists for him in this one. Had a very good game. I'm happy to see him with Nugent-Hopkins and Janmark. That is a line that does a lot of very little things right. A line that goes straight forward, goes into puck battles. And again, it's the little things. And those little things all add up to a big thing. And that big thing was this game against the Stars last night. As meant, hey, everybody on this line got at least 2 points. Mattias Janmark, as mentioned, 2 goals and assists, 3 points. Klim Kostin, no goals, but 2 assists. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, a goal, 2 assists, and 3 points. Now, Leon Draisaitl getting an assist in this one. Connor McDavid also getting a goal. But Zach Hyman getting a goal in this one, making 4 Edmonton Oilers, the Edmonton Oilers are the only team with 4 guys with at least 15 goals on the season. That is Connor McDavid with 29. That 29th goal, by the way, makes him the 3rd player to get 65 points since at Christmas, before Christmas. The only 2 players to get 65 points before Christmas. Let me know if you ever heard of these guys. Mario Lemieux, I don't know if you ever heard of him. And Jaromir Jagr. Yeah, that guy. He's still playing, actually. Jaromir Jagr. So, not bad company for Connor McDavid. But as mentioned, he is one of 4 players with 15 goals so far this year. 29 for 97. 21 for 29. Leon Draisaitl has 21 goals on the year. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with 18 goals on the year. And Zach Hyman with his 15th goal of the season. Now, I do want to mention the second line as well. That second line of Warren Foegele, Leon Draisaitl, and Kyler Yamamoto. That line was having a lot of success before Foegele went down, and that success and chemistry kept going in this one as Leon Draisaitl found Warren Foegele for the one that kind of put the game on ice there for the Stars, as the Edmonton Oilers would go on to win it after that, as mentioned, as you know, for 6-3. But yeah, Stuart Skinner as well, an underrated game, wasn't too busy. 27 shots against, 24 saves, there was one of them that maybe he could have had, but realistically it was coming in on a rush, a tough mistake by one of the forwards that allowed a rush in early in the second period. But the Oilers were able to come back, win the game 6-3. They are now, as mentioned, 1 point behind the Seattle Kraken for that 3rd spot in the Pacific Division. And that's big for the Edmonton Oilers, especially considering they've been a little wishy-washy and haven't gotten the wins against the teams, especially recently, that they need to. But, excuse me for smacking my microphone here, audio listeners, but that is because of the depth scoring. And just how important was that depth? We talked about that 3rd line, but it wasn't just the 3rd line chipping in offensively. We will talk about that in just a second, but first, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball. And now that the World Cup is over, you can get a whole bunch of club soccer all over the place. I'm talking Premier League. I'm talking Serie A. I'm talking Bundesliga. I'm talking La Liga. I'm talking, what's the French league? Ligue 1. There you go. Ligue 1, but in French. Either way, they've got it all at Bet Online. And plus, if you love sports podcasts, which if you're listening to this one, you probably do, you can find those at Bet Online as well. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet Online, where the game starts. To reach over here for my notes for the second period of today's episode. I just want to thank you for making Locked On Oilers your first listen every day. Make sure you tune in and check out Locked On Sports today for your second listen. The biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reaction, game recaps, and Locked On's take of the day. Locked On Sports today, available on YouTube and wherever you find your podcast. Alrighty, as mentioned, a massive game for the Edmonton Oilers in Dallas, but it was a massive game for the stars of the Oilers, not named Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. In fact, also not really named Zach Hyman either, and you can put in Ryan Nugent-Hopkins there as well, but it was a big game for the Edmonton Oilers depth players. As mentioned, anyone not named Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. You've been listening for a little while. You know my favorite stat is the goals for and goals against per 60 minutes. And I'm going to take a look at the goals for per 60 minutes for the game last night because I was thinking, you know what? You have all these goals, but you don't really get the full scope of what really happened before and who was on the ice and what needed to happen for that goal to go in just based on the goal sheet or the score sheet or whatever. You have to take a look at those stats that really put everybody on the same level and tell you what really happened. And that's what goals for and goals against per 60 minutes does. It takes in the fact, how often you were on the ice, the quality of shots that happened when you were on the ice, the quality of, goals in general, in fact, that also go into it. But it's not just the goals. It's not just a glorified plus minus. It tells you and puts everybody on the same playing field as to what happened when you were on the ice. And the Edmonton Oilers didn't have Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl in the top 6. And heck, they weren't even in the top 8 when it came to 5-on-5 goals for per 60 minutes. In fact, you would probably be shocked at who's number 1 at 5-on-5 goals for per 60 minutes. I'll give you 3 guesses right now. Make your 3 guesses. Nope, not him. Nope, not him either. No, it's not him either. It's actually Markus Niemelainen. Yes, Markus Niemelainen led every Edmonton Oiler in goals for per 60 minutes last night at 5-on-5. His goals for per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, a 12.21. A 12.21. Second, Klim Kostin. Yeah, Klim Kostin. You may have guessed him in one of your 3 guesses there. He did get second with 11.12. Then after that, maybe somebody we've been absolutely harping on over the last couple of weeks, Evan Bouchard with a 10.86. And we can keep going. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins comes in at 4th with a 10.02, playing on that third line, but was a driving force in the offensive game for the Edmonton Oilers. Oh, wow, shocker, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins doing Ryan Nugent-Hopkins type things. Then after him, Mattias Janmark with 9, Jesse Puljujärvi with a 5.11, Warren Foegele with a 4.84, Kyler Yamamoto with a 4.77, and then Leon Draisaitl with 4.73, and then McDavid with a 4.16. McDavid and Draisaitl coming in at 9th and 10th at goals for per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. That is how you win a hockey game. That is how you win a hockey game. We know our theory right now. As long as the Edmonton Oilers get 2 goals and a goal from Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, but as long as they get at least 2 goals from somebody not named Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, the Edmonton Oilers will go on to win a game. And look what happened here. Mattias Janmark with 2. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with 1. There's 3 of them right there. Warren Foegele with another one. And Zach Hyman. The only one of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to score was Connor McDavid with 1 goal to put the game away. That's important. That is a team win. And as every pundit around the Edmonton Oilers have said, that is the biggest game for the Edmonton Oilers to date. Against a very good opponent, a full team. Heck, Rupe Hintz scored the first goal of the game, and you're sitting there going, no, here we go again. But no, it wasn't the first line. It wasn't the second line. It was the third line with Mattias Janmark, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Klim Kostin, who went out there, who ran pace for the Edmonton Oilers, who set the tone for the Edmonton Oilers. And then not only that, but every single line, every single defensive pairing, yes, they allowed 3 goals, but every single line, every single pairing went out there and matched that energy and went out there and realized, hey, if these guys are doing it, then we can do it too. This isn't even to mention yet the goals for per 60 minutes in all situations, where if you still take a look at it, Connor McDavid nor Leon Draisaitl don't show up in the top 5. The top 5 consists of, at number 1 last night in all situations, goals for per 60 minutes, Klim Kostin, topping the list for the Edmonton Oilers in this one with a 15.89. 15. Then in second place was the guy who's in first at 5-on-5 in Markus Niemelainen. Markus Niemelainen was sent down to Bakersfield to work on his puck movement and really his offensive game. And once he got the call up, a couple of people, especially who were watching Bakersfield and Niemelainen, sat there and went, why? His defensive game has been exactly what you expect him to be, but his offensive game hasn't gotten really any better, especially with the puck. Well, Markus Niemelainen is out here leading the team or sitting second in goals for per 60 minutes. Yes, he might not have gotten a goal or an assist or whatever, but that still means he's contributing to when the Edmonton Oilers are scoring. That's important. Oh, by the way, his goals against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 was a 0. I'm not talking about Darnell Nurse. I'm not talking about Tyson Barrie or Evan Bouchard, which I can talk about Evan Bouchard as he was 4th in goals for per 60 minutes in all situations and 3rd when it came to goals for per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. I'm talking about Markus Niemelainen. The guy who at one point was the 7th defenseman, then was sent down, then was called back up, then was scratched, then was put back into the lineup, and now is helping the Edmonton Oilers win. That's important. Then in all situations, it went Ryan Nugent-Hopkins after Niemelainen. Evan Bouchard came 4th, and then 5th was Mattias Janmark. Then you see Leon Draisaitl in 6th. 7th was Zach Hyman. 8th was Connor McDavid. 9th was Jesse Puljujärvi. 10th was Warren Foegele. And 11th was Kailer Yamamoto. We went through how many players right there? 11, I guess, when we included Zach Hyman. But 10 in total. And it took us 8 other names before we got to Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. in a game against the Central Division leader? I mentioned this at the end of at the start of this segment here. That is how you win games. That is how you win games. We shall see if the Edmonton Oilers can keep their roll going on Friday. But either way, we aren't going to talk about Friday yet. We're going to talk about last night's game still to wrap up today's episode as we go through the good, the bad, and the ugly from the game against the Dallas Stars in just a second. But first, today's episode is brought to you by the NHTSA. Did you know that driving high is considered driving under the influence? That's right. Driving under the influence of marijuana is against the law in every state, even in states where marijuana is legal. That means driving high could get you a DUI. And if you think law enforcement officers can't tell when you're driving high, you're wrong. Your friends can tell. Your coworkers can tell. Even your parents can tell. Everyone can tell. So what makes you think that law enforcement officers don't know when you're driving high? Driving under the influence of marijuana can slow your response time and change how you perceive time and speed. So even if you think you're fine to drive when you're high, you're not. Because the bottom line is, if you feel different, you drive different. And driving high is driving under the influence. So remember, drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by the NHTSA. Alrighty, let's wrap up today's episode with the good, the bad, and the ugly from last night's game against the Dallas Stars. As again, a massive, massive win for the Oilers against the Dallas Stars, 6-3 here. And again, as after every Edmonton Oilers game, let's start off with the good. The good from last night's game, we have talked about it at length. That is the depth scoring. Mattias Janmark with 2 goals. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins getting a goal as well. Zach Hyman getting a goal. Warren Foegele getting a goal. We talked about all of those players as well, contributing to the game offensively, and that is important. That is where you win hockey games. End of story. End of story. So the big good in this game, I won't break it down much more as we have done it at length already, but the good from this game, depth scoring. The bad, I'm bending the rules again a little bit because he's a bad man and he was very, very mad at the refs last night. Our bad of the game is Jay Woodcroft. As Jay Woodcroft, he was a little bit of a bad man, a madman at some points, as we even starting before the game. All of us thought, oh man, the Oilers are going to go with the same lineup. They're trusting the lineup in the 3 games that they lost in their 3-game losing streak. They only lost by a goal in each one of them, so fair enough. Let's see if they can go with it again. And then puck drop came and you went, what? What do you mean Janmark's with Nugent-Hopkins and Kostin? What do you mean Kostin's with Nugent-Hopkins? What's going on here? Jay Woodcroft said, y'all really thought, didn't you? He played everybody. That was a methodical move from the moment he woke up. Every single time you ask Jay Woodcroft, oh, is so-and-so in the lineup? He goes, we'll see. Oh, he's available. Oh, we'll talk about that tomorrow. He is a master at deception. And he did it once again in Dallas, and it paid off. And as well, I want to mention, you rarely do see, you see the side comments, you see him talking to the refs, and he obviously really cares about the Edmonton Oilers. But Last night was finally the point where he just went, I don't care. Screaming at the refs, that's a bad call. That call on Klim Kostin was awful. I don't even know what they called on that call, but it was awful. Maybe 2 minutes for missing a check beats me. But either way, Jay Woodcroft got into it with the refs and let them know. Jim Nill did it as well for the Dallas Stars. It wasn't a good game for the officials, but it was a good game for us to watch at home and to see Jay Woodcroft wear his emotion on his sleeves. A man who rarely does it, a man, as mentioned, a master of deception, but you love to see the emotion from Jay Woodcroft. So the bad from last night's game, Jay Woodcroft, as he was a mad, bad man. And to wrap up the good, the bad, and the ugly from last night's game, the ugly from last night's game is beating contenders. Yes, the ugly is beating a contender because the Edmonton Oilers just played the lowly St. Louis Blues, who have had a little bit of an up and down season. They just lost to them. Then the Anaheim Ducks came to town. You sat there going, oh, this one's easy. You got Skinner going. Let the boys go out there and play. And then they lose. And then the Oilers fly to Nashville. The mayor of Nashville finally touches down in Smashville. And he's held pointless, and the Oilers lose again in overtime. You're sitting there going, these are three teams we all thought the Edmonton Oilers would win against, but they didn't. Then they fly to Dallas, and everybody's going, oh, great. They're playing the leaders of the Central Division. Jason Robertson's on the other team, which, by the way, was only held to a point. And the Edmonton Oilers go into Dallas, Texas, and beat the Dallas Stars 6-3. Not 4-3, not 5-3, but they beat the Dallas Stars by 3 goals. Not 2-1, not 3-1, not 1-0. Shout out the Colorado Avalanche on an exhilarating 1-0 shootout win. But they win 6-3. A massive win for the Edmonton Oilers as they go on to face Vancouver. Another lowly team who you sit there and go, the Oilers should beat, but you never know. But hopefully after this game, the Oilers should have some momentum. Either way, the good, the bad, and the ugly from last night's game. The good, the depth score, and the bad is Jay Woodcroft. He's a bad man. And the ugly is finally beating a contender when it doesn't look like you should be beating them at all, especially considering your previous results. Either way, the Edmonton Oilers look to improve on that win on Friday as the Vancouver Canucks come to town and play the Edmonton Oilers at Rogers Place at 7 p.m. We shall have a little bit of a preview for the game tomorrow, and it is the last game before Christmas for the Edmonton Oilers. So we will also have a little bit of a wish list, a Christmas wish list for the Edmonton Oilers next for Christmas as well on tomorrow's episode. But either way, that's tomorrow, not today. Enjoy your day today. I hope to see you tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. And after the game in Dallas, you can play La Bamba, baby.